The salvage contract with the New Horizons group was clean. Not generous, not suspicious. Just rare enough to justify the trip, and specific enough to discourage questions. He didn't ask what the slightly rare atmospheric processor would be used for, or why this specific model. It got him a good price. It was enough. Marcus Reed did well by not taking interest in facades that created plausibility while hiding uglier truths beneath. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had left the Terran Navy after watching too many officers advance on narrative as much as accomplishment. Stories polished until they outweighed results. But here, out in the neutral corridor, that same blindness didn't prevent him from doing honest business his way. Marcus traded throughout the neutral corridor and, occasionally, in Hrithi and Terran space, though he insisted there was no long-term profit in either. He had learned a working fluency in Hrithi gestures and intonations, enough for counting, trading, indicating desired goods, and most importantly, respect. Despite the constant need to brace himself and suppress deeply conditioned Terran responses, he found the Hrithi respectful and meticulously courteous. The neutral corridor was the buffer space between Hrithi and Terran territory. Most neutral territories were unclaimed zones between the jump gates of major species. In this corridor, the Hrithi and Terrans believed that separation would benefit peace, both sides convinced that distance was the best answer. So they built gates through a chain of systems to form the corridor, then handed control of those gates to local system authorities. It worked, even if, in principle, the separation hadn't been necessary. The neutral corridor authorities claimed the moral high ground, proof that different species could live, trade, and coexist successfully. On the surface, that was true, but their control extended only as far as the gates allowed. In the background, illicit trade, black markets, and worse flourished. In the corridor, curiosity was a liability. Speculation led to assumptions, and assumptions had a way of becoming obligations. He told himself, truthfully, that wealth didn't always mean corruption. Sometimes it meant luck, sometimes patience, sometimes simply seeing value where others didn't. He preferred those explanations. The handoff took place at a prefabricated yard on the moon's darker hemisphere. No banners, no oversight presence, just functionaries. Efficient, polite, forgettable, who verified the cargo by serial, verified quality, and transferred the credit without comment. No one looked him in the eye for long. That didn't mean anything either. He watched the balance settle, nodded once, and returned to his vehicle without lingering. The whole transaction took less than 20 minutes. Smooth, professional. Done. That should have been the end of it. On the walk back to his berth, he noticed the smoke. It rose from a shallow depression beyond the landing pads, where the ground dipped and the wind didn't quite reach. Something was burning there, intentionally, not accidentally. A low, steady fire fed by material that resisted combustion. He stopped. From a distance, it was hard to tell whether it had been one thing or many. Furred or fur-adjacent. Too much texture for fabric, too organic for equipment. There were sticks or small appendages, thin, irregular, jointed in ways that suggested function rather than structure. Once alive. He didn't recognize it. That mattered. If it had been human, he would have known. If it had been Hrithi, he would have known. If it had been equipment, it would have been obvious. This sat in the gap between categories, and his mind slid past it without catching. He stood there long enough to confirm the fire was controlled, and that no one was watching him watch it. Then he turned away. The corridor taught people how to survive ambiguity. His ship waited where he'd left it, an old freighter with a history long enough to justify its quirks. He had converted it over years, piece by piece, until it could haul cargo as cleanly as it reclaimed wreckage. Opportunism, not greed. Cargo paid the bills. Salvage paid the upgrades. Together, they kept him independent. The dorsal turret had been refitted with a laser extension and a manipulation arm, officially a cutting and handling tool, optimized for slicing bonded hull plates and extracting embedded components. Unofficially, a laser was still a laser. He had never needed it for anything but salvage. That wasn't a rule, just a fact. Inside, the ship hummed with familiar confidence. Systems ran tight. Maintenance logs were clean. The AI greeted him with a brief status summary and then went quiet, as it knew he preferred. He trusted it. A good AI was the difference between rest and vigilance for a solo pilot, between sleep and the kind of half-conscious waiting that shortened lives. He sealed the hatch, ran a cursory check, and set the course for departure. The engines powered, and he told himself once again that whatever burned in that clearing was none of his business. And for the moment, that was still true. He was cleared for takeoff and departed without concern, already considering his next contract. His instincts nudged him toward a system a few gates deeper into the corridor. For now, he had just put endgame on autopilot and was halfway to the galley when he heard it. A sound out of place. Noise aboard ship was nothing new, but years of listening to hulls, systems, and vibration patterns had trained him to notice when something didn't belong. Not alarmed, just attentive, he changed course toward the cargo hold. Loose equipment, most likely. Something not quite secured for transit. That was what he expected. The sound came again. Not loud, not sharp, just wrong. Marcus stopped mid-step. Ships made noise, they always had. Thermal ticks, pressure equalization, the soft complaint of metal adjusting to acceleration. You learned their language if you wanted to live long enough to stop listening to it consciously. This wasn't that. It was irregular, soft, almost deliberate. He changed direction without thinking, moving back toward the cargo hold. His hand didn't go to a weapon. He didn't own one worth the name. Just a cutter, a laser tool, and habits that had kept him alive longer than doctrine ever had. The cargo bay lights rose as he entered, washing over stacked crates, restraint webbing, salvage frames, everything exactly where it should have been. Almost. Something shifted at the edge of his vision. Marcus froze. He turned his head slowly. In the far corner of the bay, beneath a loose tarp he knew hadn't been there when he sealed the hold, something moved again. A subtle tightening, a withdrawal. Alive. His breath slowed. He approached at an angle, boots quiet on the deck, giving himself space. When he reached the tarp, he hesitated, long enough to choose how this would go. Then he hooked 2 fingers under the edge and pulled it back. The Hrithi flinched. Marcus forgot how to move. She was smaller than any Hrithi he had ever seen, barely reaching his chest, even crouched. Hrithi were usually tall, long-limbed, spider-like, their bodies built around balance and reach rather than mass. This one was compact, drawn inward, her limbs folded close in a posture that spoke of fear learned early and reinforced often. Her fur caught the light. Hrithi fur was never uniform. It wasn't hair so much as a living surface, fine, dense filaments whose structure scattered light. Most Hrithi wore muted earth tones or deep-shadowed hues, their appearance shifting subtly with angle and motion. This was different. Her fur was impossibly soft-looking, glossy, layered in iridescent bands that shifted as the lights changed. Deep violets sliding into pearlescent blues, warm ambers threading through like reflected fire. The colors weren't decoration. They were physics, made beautiful. She was beautiful, not in a human way, not in symmetry or familiarity. In detail, in the way every element that made Hrithi strange. Too many joints, too many eyes, limbs that bent where human anatomy insisted they shouldn't, had resolved here into something precise, elegant, intentional. Her eyes were large and dark, catching reflections in overlapping layers. Hrithi eyes didn't blink the way human ones did. They shifted focus in minute internal movements instead. These were wide now, locked on him. This left him stunned. He realized he was staring and didn't care. She made a small sound, not speech, not quite. A soft, involuntary vibration that passed through her chest and limbs, her fur lifting slightly with the motion. Marcus let the tarp fall from his hand. He didn't step closer. He didn't step back. For a long moment, neither of them moved. And somewhere, behind the fear and the beauty and the impossible presence of her in his cargo hold, a single thought surfaced, clear and cold. Something burned on that moon. The Hrithi's pedipalps quivered quickly. Her 4 walking legs made a brief, tiptoed sequence, interest and excitement restrained by fear. Her head moved side to side in a tight, controlled arc. Marcus stood still, mesmerized. Then he heard a soft voice, so faint he didn't recognize it as speech at first. Most Hrithi had trouble with Terran words. Their anatomy wasn't built for easy, sustained speech. Words, when spoken at all, were usually clipped and supported by gesture. This wasn't. "I am mist," she whispered, the Terran clean and unmistakable. "Please don't hurt me." Marcus was stunned in a new and completely different way. He had never heard a Hrithi speak Terran as clearly, or as long a sentence. Most Hrithi understanding, in his experience, was a set of complex movements combined with a word or two. Marcus took a breath and let his shoulders drop, deliberately easing his posture. "My name is Marcus," he said. "I fly this ship." Mist didn't retreat. Her walking feet made a quick, tiptoed adjustment, interest and alertness. Her head movement stayed controlled. Her pedipalps quivered rapidly. Fear contained. "You came from the moon," Marcus said. He didn't phrase it as an accusation, just a fact. Her forward arms drew in closer, 2 crossing protectively while the others rubbed slowly along her forearms, nervous, self-soothing. "That brings problems," he said quietly. "Not with me. With the people you came from." Her feet stilled. "Focus." "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, and this time the words were chosen. "And I won't bring you back." Her head movement paused, control tightening. He continued before she could fill the silence. "There's a Terran Hrithi enclave," he said. "Recognized transit, shared authority. You'd be safe there. People who—" The reaction was immediate. Mist's pedipalps snapped into sharp, rigid alignment. Her head movement widened, faster now, control slipping. Her walking feet tiptoed rapidly in place, energy spiking with nowhere to go. "No." The word came out fast. Clear. Too clear. One forward arm lifted, palm outward in a sharp, halting gesture. An unmistakable stop. The enclave hadn't been a solution. It had been a threat. Marcus stopped speaking immediately. "Okay," he said. "Okay." We don't do that. Mist didn't relax, but her head movement narrowed again, control reasserting itself with visible effort. Her pedipalps loosened, fear returning, the sharper edge fading. Then we find another option, Marcus said, and for the first time since he'd pulled back the tarp, Mist didn't look like she was preparing to run. She looked like she was listening. Mist calmed herself. It was visible, deliberate. The rapid micro-movements eased. Her walking feet stilled. Her forward arms folded with intention rather than fear. There was dignity in it. Wait. When she spoke again, she used gestures as much as words, shaping her Terran carefully. Those others, she said, arms angling outward, then sharply away. Not us, not Terran, not Hrithi. Something set apart. They are monsters. Marcus caught the emphasis immediately. She was being precise. They violated me, Mist continued, in a way too much for the Hrithi. Her head moved side to side once, controlled, restrained, absolute. I cannot go back to Hrithi. They won't forgive the violation? Marcus asked. Not judgment, clarification. Mist shook her head no. The Hrithi, she said, then made a complex motion near her head, 4 arms tracing a subtle interlocking pattern. Hive head, Marcus said slowly. No mind? She nodded. They have ruined me, Mist said. It will infect the Hrithi mind. Marcus exhaled slowly. Then we don't take you there, he said. The ship's AI announced calmly, Gate transit in 15 minutes. Marcus turned slightly, orienting toward the sound, then back to Mist. Come with me, he said. I'll show you to a room. He paused, choosing his words carefully. It's yours. I don't know what Hrithi find comfortable, but you can make it what you need. If you need anything at all, tell me. I need to be on the bridge for the transit. Mist inclined her head in a small, precise motion. See if the processor can make something you can eat, he added. Acceptance. As she shifted, the light caught something on her fur, a dark splotch. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Not alarm, just attention. The shape wasn't irregular. It didn't break the iridescent flow the way damage would. Then it moved. Not much. Just enough. His breath caught. Mist noticed his focus and turned slightly, giving him a clearer view without drama. This, she said calmly, is the other reason we cannot go. The dark shape shifted again. Small, deliberate. This is Jumper, Mist said. My hatchling. She paused. The last one. The image from the moon snapped into focus with brutal clarity. There was no room left for denial. Marcus closed his eyes for half a second. When he opened them, his voice was steady. Okay, he said. Not reassurance. Commitment. Let's get you somewhere safe. Marcus left her there and moved forward through the narrow spine of the ship toward the bridge. Endgame altered course in small, controlled adjustments as it joined the outbound traffic pattern. Freighters, couriers, and passenger hulls converging on the same fixed point in space. The gates were reverse-engineered and manufactured from ancient relics left behind by an equally ancient and long-dead civilization known simply as the predecessors. They were fundamental to interstellar travel, strategic assets and public infrastructure at the same time, controlled not by ownership of space, but by who owned the access codes to the gate. It did not look like a doorway until you were close. At long range, it appeared as a massive ring structure, the outer arc studded with protrusions, docking spars, and sensor arrays. The inner ring was smooth and metallic, too symmetrical, too large to feel entirely real. As Endgame closed the distance, the scale resolved properly. The empty center shimmered faintly, and the stars within it were not the same stars visible outside the ring. Ships aligned along clearly defined inbound and outbound corridors, with larger and smaller hulls separated by mass and wake tolerances. Traffic control existed, but only to prevent collision. The gate itself did not wait. Transit was instantaneous. The moment any portion of a ship touched the shimmering veil, it vanished, and just as instantly appeared on the other side, in a different star system. There was always a brief window where you could still turn away, and Marcus had learned to respect that moment. Once you crossed the threshold, the ship was no longer moving through space. It was surrendering itself to the gate's physics. Endgame aligned. Systems tightened. Power output flattened into a steady, controlled line. The AI kept its voice neutral, but the ship itself changed. The hum grew rigid, vibrations settling as if the hull were bracing for impact that never came. Marcus strapped in. Endgame touched the shimmering field and vanished. For an instant, every sense lied. The stars smeared into a thin white arc, and the deck seemed to lose its weight. Not freefall, not acceleration, something in between, like reality had briefly come unhooked and then snapped back into place. Then the view screen cleared. Different stars. Different system. Marcus immediately adjusted to the common traffic pattern. No one lingered in front of an active gate. Unseen traffic could emerge without warning, and hesitation here was how ships died without witnesses. He didn't tell Mist why. He didn't have to. Some truths didn't need explanation, only distance. By the end of the first day, he found himself spending more time on the bridge than anywhere else. Not because he needed to, because it was the one place that felt honest. Motion, vectors, mass, and time. No hard questions, to others or to himself. He was reviewing traffic projections when he sensed movement behind him. Not alarm, presence. Mist stood just inside the bridge threshold, her posture careful, her walking feet still. She had learned the ship's rhythms quickly, where to pause, where to enter without startling him. Jumper wasn't so shy. He crawled along the overhead bulkhead, Endgame's curved corridors comfortable for the young Hrithi. "I'm sorry," Mist said. The words surprised Marcus more than her appearance. "For what?" he asked, keeping his tone neutral as he turned. She hesitated, then drew her forward arms in, a familiar, self-contained posture. Not fear, not excitement. Something closer to resignation. "I know Terrans do not find Hrithi attractive," she said. "Some find us frightening." Marcus frowned. "That's not true," he said immediately. She tilted her head, a small, controlled movement. Skepticism, not challenge. "When I first saw you," Marcus continued, choosing his words carefully, "my first thought wasn't fear. It was that you were beautiful, in a way I hadn't seen before." Mist looked away, not retreating, just deferring. "That is because I am wrong," she said quietly. Marcus didn't interrupt. She reached up and touched the base of her neck, fingers working through the fur until she revealed a narrow, dark band embedded beneath it. A collar. Sleek, precise, unmistakably technological. "This is a control node," Mist said. "They put it on me after they took me." Marcus's jaw tightened. "From the Enclave?" he asked. She nodded. I was on transport, she said. Protected, registered, then sold. Her Terran was steady now, clinical. Distance learned the hard way. They are called Horizon, she continued. They say neutral space means freedom. It means opportunity. Her pedipalps twitched once, tight, restrained. They used this to sever what little hive connection I had, she said, then to guide my growth, my molts, my colors. She gestured subtly to her iridescent fur. This is not Hrithi, she said. Not real Hrithi. The word real carried weight. They wanted me unique, she continued. Exotic, trained, fluent, calm. Something that could be owned without resistance. Marcus felt something cold settle behind his ribs. And Jumper? He asked. Mist's arms folded protectively without thought. They burned the others, she said. No pause, no tremor. He was small, quiet. He survived? He is real Hrithi colors. It's why they burned the others. They don't want real. Silence stretched across the bridge, broken only by the ship's low hum and the distant pull of acceleration. They sell Hrithi young, Mist added, to those who want something rare, something obedient, something that looks like us but is not us. She lifted her head then, meeting Marcus's eyes fully. That is why I cannot return, she said. The hive would not reject me because I am broken. Her head moved once, precise and final. They would reject me because I am changed. Marcus leaned back in his chair, hands clasped, eyes fixed on the stars ahead. Then we make sure you don't have to, he said. Mist watched him closely, head movement minimal, pedipalps still. You would do this, she said. Not a question. Marcus nodded once. I didn't leave the Navy because I hated rules, he said. I left because some lines don't get to move. Mist absorbed that in silence. Outside, the Terran gate waited, distant, massive, unavoidable, and for the first time since she had hidden in his cargo hold, Mist allowed herself to believe she might not be running alone anymore. Next thing, Marcus said, nodding toward her neck. Can I see that? Mist's head moved in a small, controlled arc, measuring him. Her forward arms tightened slightly against her body, reservations made physical. Why? If it's harming you, Marcus said, I need to know. If it has a tracker, I need to know that even more. Mist's pedipalps quivered, fear but contained. Her walking feet made a brief, tiptoed adjustment, interest sharpening into focus. It cannot be damaged, she said quietly. If it fails, only the Hrithi mind can pull me back after. The words were careful, where I can't go. I'm not going to break it, Marcus said. I'm going to understand it. Mist hesitated, then reached up. No locks. No hesitation with mechanics, only with trust. She unclipped the node. Marcus blinked as it came free too easily. Mist's pedipalps loosened, and for the first time there was something like dry amusement in her posture. It keeps me alive away from the Hrithi mind, she said. It does not need locks. She placed it in his hand. The device was smaller than he expected, dense, smooth, too clean for something that had lived on a victim. It hummed faintly, sub-audible, felt more than heard. Marcus set it on the console and pulled a diagnostic wand from a drawer. He didn't rush. He checked for obvious emitters, then ran a passive scan. Endgame, he said without looking up. Isolate the bridge network. Give me a limited interface. Affirmative, the AI replied. Sandbox created. No ship-wide access permitted. Mist watched him work without moving. Her head motion was minimal, high control. Her forward arms folded, not defensive now, but contained. Jumper, unbothered by the gravity of adult conversation, crawled across the overhead bulkhead and dropped down to the top of a chair, peering with bright curiosity at everything Marcus touched. Marcus barely noticed. He plugged the node into the sandbox port. Data scrolled. A tight, simple handshake. No encryption theatrics. No false complexity. That's almost polite, Marcus murmured. Device is broadcasting a repeating patterned carrier, the AI said. Frequency stable, power draw minimal. Marcus ran deeper analysis. The outputs weren't random. They were structured, like a language. Minutes passed. Mist remained quiet. Jumper did not. He tested the console edge with tiny feet, then leaned too far and caught himself with effortless grace, chattering a soft vibration at no one in particular. Marcus finally looked up. Mist was staring at him with a stillness that carried pressure. He realized he and the AI had spoken over her like she wasn't there. He corrected immediately, voice softer, more direct. Okay, he said. This isn't as bad as it looks. Mist's pedipalps tightened. Not relief, not yet. Marcus gestured toward the device. It's replicating a Hrithi input signal, he said, then feeding neural feedback closed loop, like a synthetic hive whisper, enough to keep your system from collapsing when you're alone. Mist didn't blink. She didn't move. But her head's sway narrowed, control tightening further. It didn't make you wrong, Marcus continued. It just sent your own mental signal back as hive mind. Unreal. Mist's forward arms tightened slightly, as if bracing. Marcus kept his voice level. This part, he tapped a data trace, is molt gating. They can inject a colorization profile at the trigger point. That's why your fur changed the way it did. Mist's pedipalps stiffened, anger, sharp and restrained. But, Marcus added quickly, it doesn't rewrite you. It's not rewriting your mind. It's tuning the inputs you were already built to need. He held up a hand, an honest admission. I can't promise what your next molt will look like, but if I remove their profile, it's going to follow normal Hrithi biology. Mist's walking feet made a tiny, involuntary tiptoe sequence, interest spiking, fighting fear. And the tracker? She asked. Marcus's eyes flicked to the diagnostic summary. He didn't soften it. There was one. Low-power beacon riding the carrier. I disabled it. Mist went very still. Then, cautiously, she reached out and took the node back. She clipped it into place with the same ease she'd removed it. No locks, no ceremony. For a moment she looked around, as if the air should feel different, as if silence should return. Nothing changed externally, but something in her posture eased, just a fraction. Not comfort, not safety, a margin. The first sign wasn't strategic. It was quiet. Marcus was on the bridge, reviewing traffic projections the way he always did, slowly, methodically, letting the numbers settle into intuition. Endgame held course without complaint, engines humming in the narrow band he preferred, efficient, steady, forgettable. The AI had already flagged the system as nominal, which was why the second voice caught his attention. Temperature variance, Mist said softly. Minor. Forward corridor. Marcus glanced at the environmental panel. She was right. It was nothing urgent. The sort of fluctuation he would normally notice in 20 minutes, correct in 2, and forget entirely. "I'll get to it," he said. Mist didn't answer. She was already moving. Not quickly, not hurried, just proceeding, as if the task had always been hers. Marcus watched her for a moment before realizing what felt wrong. She hadn't asked. He didn't stop her. By the time he thought to object, the corridor temperature had already normalized. Endgame chimed quietly. Environmental stability restored. Mist returned to the bridge and took up a place near the secondary console, not hovering, not waiting, just present. Marcus noticed, then reached for his tools. He quickly disassembled the chair's backrest, modifying it in a way he had seen on Hrithi stations, immediately more comfortable for her frame. "That should help," he said. It was easier that way. Jumper adapted faster than either of them. He treated the ship as an elaborate climbing structure full of lights. Curved bulkheads, recessed grips, soft vibration fields. Endgame might as well have been designed for Hrithi Young. Marcus learned quickly to stop reacting to movement overhead. The first time Jumper dropped onto the back of his chair, Marcus nearly spilled a cup of reheated synth coffee across the console. The second time, he just sighed. Mist didn't apologize. She reached out, caught Jumper's attention, and made a few precise gestures. A mother's way of saying that is enough. Jumper wilted slightly, a posture that read as dejection to Marcus, even if he understood why it was necessary. "So that's how you do it," Marcus said. He studied Jumper for a moment, then looked up. "I have something better." He opened an overhead panel, released a small section of the interior plating, and stowed it carefully. Behind it was a rarely used bubbled viewport, poorly designed for Terran use, but perfect for a young Hrithi's curiosity. "This is your place." Jumper crawled inside immediately, and had to be coaxed out later. Mist tilted her head slightly. She was pleased. They fell into rhythm without discussing it. Marcus handled navigation, communications, and power management. Mist handled everything else. Not formally, not visibly. She adjusted lighting levels as his eyes tired, muted alerts before they became intrusive, brought him water when his voice went dry, without comment, without interruption. Once, halfway through a long-range scan review, Marcus reached for a tool that wasn't there. It was placed gently beside his hand. He looked up. Mist had already turned away. The realization landed slowly and with unexpected weight. He hadn't asked. He hadn't even known he needed it yet. Endgame noticed. "Marcus," the AI said at last, tone carefully neutral. "Your task completion time has improved by 14%. Marcus snorted softly. "Is that right?" "Correlation suggests increased operational efficiency," the AI continued. "No changes to ship systems detected." Marcus glanced at Mist. She was seated now, Jumper curled against her chest, her forward arms folded loosely, not guarding, not tense. Just there. "Yeah," Marcus said quietly. "I noticed." Endgame paused. "Would you like me to adjust my task distribution model?" Marcus shook his head. "No," he said. "You're doing fine." And he meant it. The New Horizon contact appeared on the plot 6 hours later. Mist noticed it first. Not because she was watching for threats, but because she was watching everything else. "There," she said. "That one does not belong." Marcus leaned forward. The signature was faint, masked by civilian traffic and registry noise, but deliberate, clean, controlled. Endgame confirmed it a second later. New Horizon contact detected, long range, maintaining distance. Marcus exhaled slowly. So, he said, they found us. Mist studied the vectors, not the ship itself, but the space around it, the pressure points, the choices being shaped. They are not hunting yet, she said. They are waiting. For me to blink, Marcus replied. She nodded once. That was enough. What followed wasn't brilliance. It was division of labor. Marcus adjusted burn profiles to the fastest legal margins, threading acceleration through lanes where speed would blend instead of stand out. The question wasn't if they would be noticed, but when. Mist monitored neutral authority communications for interference. It was inevitable. Endgame managed power and alignment flawlessly. No one told anyone else what to do. They simply didn't duplicate effort. When Marcus needed silence, Mist created it. When Mist needed time, Marcus bought it. When Endgame needed confirmation, it received it without argument. The work moved faster because it was shared, not optimized. Jumper slept or watched from his private viewing bubble through the worst of it. The authority flagged them. Endgame. We have received a report of ownership conflict. The Horizon Group claims possession of stolen goods. They are willing to allow you to proceed without incident if you relinquish them immediately. Mist looked alarmed, not distrustful of Marcus, but at the implication of the choice itself. Looks like their get-out-of-jail-free card, Marcus muttered. Mist tilted her head, confused. Terran expression, he said. I'll explain later. We stay silent. He pushed Endgame past comfort and into maximum speed, not what the ship could tolerate, but what the inertial dampers could make livable. The AI did not protest. Mist did not flinch. As the gate approached, Horizon ships made a final run. The gate scan flagged Endgame red. Marcus sighed. If we make it through, he said, my days in the corridor are probably over. The gate filled the forward display, vast, indifferent. Marcus felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Not confidence, not relief, balance. They made it through. Marcus formally reported the incident to Terran authorities, transferring all logs and evidence. It would keep them safe, but it would also close doors behind them. Terran space answered with calm voices and clean procedure. Asylum was granted, docking assigned. When it was over, when the ship was still and the engines quiet, Marcus remained seated on the bridge longer than necessary. Mist stood beside him, silent. Jumper chirred once, then settled again. I forgot, Marcus said. Mist tilted her head. Forgot what? How much work it is, he replied, to do everything yourself. In the hive, Mist said gently, we forget the opposite. Marcus smiled, small, real. Yeah, he said. I can see how that would happen. At the dock, Terran officials explained asylum procedures to Mist. Safety, support, eventual reintegration. Mist listened. She was grateful, but not happy. Come with us, one of them said. We have a place for you to stay. Mist nodded, then looked at Marcus. What if I wanted to stay? The official blinked. Stay where? Mist pointed, not at the station, at Marcus. Can we stay? Marcus didn't hesitate. Of course, he said. As long as you like. Mist looked back at the official. Is that acceptable? The official nodded slowly. Yes, it's your choice. They hesitated, then added, Captain Reed and Endgame will be flagged as preferential under the Asylum Support Initiative. What should we list your status as? Business partner, Marcus said immediately. Mist considered that, then nodded. For the first time in years, Marcus didn't feel like the ship was carrying only him. An Endgame, excellent, loyal, tireless, was no longer the best companion aboard, just the most precise one.